If you are easily distracted, if you are easily overwhelmed when you have too much stuff going on, then in this video, I want to share with you the one focusing question that will help you cut through all the clutter so that you can get crystal clear on what your most important task is. This is the number one tip from the best-selling book, The One Thing by Gary Keller. Now, if you've not heard of the book The One Thing, it is a really simple but powerful book about getting more done and achieving your goals. And so, in this video, I want to share with you the concept from the book that I found most helpful and most applicable for those who are struggling to focus on what's important. So let me introduce to you the focusing question. The focusing question is this: what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary? Now, this question is incredibly simple, right? Any of us could ask and answer this question, and yet it's incredibly effective at cutting through all of the noise and helping us get clear on what our most important task is. Let me illustrate this with an example so that it's really clear how this works. So, imagine you're a student and you have 3 assignments due next week. Assignment 1 is worth 30% of your grade. Assignment 2 is worth 30% of your grade. And assignment 3 is worth 40% of your grade. Now, based on the numbers alone, you might think, well, assignment 3 is the most important one because it's worth the most amount of grades. So that's the one that I should probably focus on first. But let's imagine that each of these assignments has a different amount of work involved. Assignment 1 is a big, chunky assignment worth 30% that's gonna take you 10 hours to complete. Assignment 2 is also a big, chunky assignment worth 30%, but that one will take you 8 hours to complete. Then assignment 3 is worth 40%, and that one's only going to take you 2 hours to complete. So what we have here is a difference in the amount of time that it'll take to complete each assignment, and that might make assignment 3, which is the smallest, seem like the easiest one to start with. So now you're thinking, okay, I need to do assignment 3 first because it's small and easy, and then I can knock off one of these bigger assignments, and then the other one after that. But let's say that for each of these assignments, you have a different amount of knowledge that you need to draw on. Assignment 1, you feel like, 90% of the material already, you just have to write it up. Assignment 2, you feel like, 60% of the material already, you have to do a little bit of research, but it's mostly writing. For assignment 3, though, you actually feel like you only know 30% of the material. You're going to have to do a lot of learning and research before you even start writing. So now, assignment 3 seems like the hardest one, and maybe that's why you keep putting it off and focusing on these other ones instead. So we have this tug of war in our minds, where we're trying to figure out what the most important thing to focus on is. Should I do the biggest one first? Should I do the easiest one first? Should I do the hardest one first? And when we're torn in multiple directions like this, we often end up not doing anything because we're stuck trying to decide what the most important thing to do is. But let me ask you the focusing question again. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it everything else becomes easier or unnecessary? So, let's go back to our examples. If we were to ask this question and answer it honestly, we would find the best place for us to start. So, for assignment number 1, if we were to do this assignment, everything else would become a little bit easier because we would have a little bit more time to complete the remaining assignments. We wouldn't be quite as stressed, and we still have a good chunk of the grade covered. For assignment 2, if we did this one first, everything else would become a little bit easier because we would have a little bit more time, but not as much time as if we had done assignment 1 first. And we would still have the biggest assignment left to do. For assignment 3, if we were to do this first, everything else would become a lot harder because we'd be working against the clock and we'd be extremely stressed knowing that we don't have enough time to do everything. Plus, we still have a significant amount of work to do. So, if we were to honestly answer this question, we would know that assignment 1 is the best place for us to start. And by starting there, we make everything else a lot easier. So often, we struggle with deciding what our most important task is, especially if we have multiple options and multiple things pulling for our attention. But this focusing question cuts through all of that so that we can get crystal clear on where we should be spending our precious time. And so, I encourage you to use this focusing question whenever you are torn between multiple options, whenever you are struggling to decide what the most important thing to focus on is. By answering this question, you will always find the best place for you to start. Okay? So that's the focusing question that I wanted to share with you today. Let me know down below in the comment section what you would answer if you were to ask yourself this focusing question right now. Because by figuring out what the one thing is that you can do such, that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary, you will have figured out what your most important task is for right now. Okay, before we finish, I just want to quickly say thank you. Thank you for being here. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button down below. It really helps the algorithm, and it lets me know that you find these videos helpful. Also, subscribe to the channel so that you never miss one of my videos. I post new videos every single week on how to be more productive and get more done. So please join me back here next week for a brand new video. And until then, have an awesome day. All right, bye.